WFYI podcasts are brought to you by Gregory and Appel Insurance, dedicated to helping people and businesses navigate the complexities of risk management, employee benefits, and private client insurance. More at GregoryAppel.com. WFYI podcasts brought to you by Sun King Brewery, serving beers like Sunlight and Osiris, as well as new release Premium Light Lager, now available wherever Sun King is sold. More at sunKingBrewing.com.
We're going to take a trip right now. Like we always do about this time.
This is a journey into sound.
Break it down.
I'm Kyle Long, and you're listening to Cultural Manifesto. On this week's show, we'll explore the life and work of the Frankfort, Indiana actor, activist, and musician, Will Geer. He appeared in over 50 films, including In Cold Blood and Jeremiah Johnson. When most Americans remember Will Geer, they picture a gentle grandfather on a 1970s television drama. But decades before he became Grandpa Walton, Geer led a very different life. He was an actor who helped stage one of the most politically explosive musicals in American history. He was a left-wing activist who supported labor organizing during the Great Depression. He was blacklisted during the Red Scare for refusing to name names before Congress. And he was a close friend and collaborator of the folk singer Woody Guthrie. Their work together, which included touring and labor benefits, allowed Geer to use his theatrical skills to amplify Guthrie's music and political message. That collaboration left a lasting imprint. Even after Guthrie's death, Geer continued to preserve and interpret his songs. Join me for the next hour as we celebrate the life of Will Geer by exploring his connection to Woody Guthrie.
Woody and I got a job in Hollywood in a picture called Fight for Life, Peril Lawrence, U.S. Film Service. We both got our jobs because our wives were pregnant. Fragrant, as Woody called it then. The picture need 8-month wives long gone to be taken in the picture at a certain time. Well, when we were up in this part of the country, we'd done the first shooting. I was a doctor in the picture, The Fight for Life. We got word up in San Jose. John Steinbeck told us we had to get back. He was a supervisor on the picture. And so we hurried off in Woody's old Ford. We got along pretty good. We came down picking up people along the way. We came down through past Bakersfield. We got on the Grapevine curve there. And I looked ahead and there was a wheel off the car running up in front. And I says, Woody, look ahead, there's a wheel. The wheel's off the car. Woody says, hell, let's catch up with it. Well, we got to the hospital all right, where Woody's wife was having her baby. The baby was named Will, after me, William. It's a funny thing, you know, how life tricks life pays you. That boy, William, when he was 21 years old, he was killed on that same highway. It takes a worried man to sing a worried song. It takes a worried man to sing a worried song. Now, but I won't be worried long. So long.
Will Geer was born on March 9 of 1902 in Frankfort, Indiana, a small Midwestern city surrounded by farmland. He was the son of a school teacher and postal worker. His grandfather taught him the Latin names of native Indiana plants. That early love of botany would stay with him for the rest of his life. Geer left Indiana to study botany at the University of Chicago, eventually earning a graduate degree. In Chicago in the 1920s, he was drawn toward theater and radical politics. Chicago introduced him to the labor struggle and political art. During the 1930s and 40s, Geer became active in left-wing political organizing. He associated with artists and organizers aligned with the Communist Party USA and he was widely recognized to be part of that political circle. His activism was public, and it would come at a cost. In the 1950s, during the Red Scare, Geer was called before the House Un-American Activities Committee, and he was blacklisted from film and television work for years. But long before that day, Geer had already made his mark in one of the most controversial theatrical productions of the 20th century. In 1937, Geer joined the cast of a new musical written by composer Mark Blitzstein. The show was called The Cradle Will Rock, and it was inspired by the work of Kurt Weill and Bertolt Brecht. It told the story of a corrupt industrial town controlled by a steel magnate. Politicians, clergy, journalists were all compromised by money, with the workers organizing in resistance. The show was produced under the Federal Theater Project, a New Deal program funded by Franklin Delano Roosevelt. On the eve of its premiere, federal officials shut it down, officially citing budget cuts. And up next, we'll hear a sample from a 1938 recording of The Cradle Will Rock. This is Will Geer singing The Freedom of the Press.
I have called you here fairly early, my dear, and you're daily because I have something on my mind.
All my tips and pros will be at your disposal, Mr. Misty, you've been very kind.
I believe newspapers are great mental shapers. My steel industry is dependent on them, really.
Just you call the news and we'll tell all the news from coast to coast and from border to border.
Yes, but some news can be made to order.
We just heard a 1938 recording of Geer performing The Freedom of the Press from the musical The Cradle Will Rock. Just a few years after that production, Geer met a young radio performer named Woody Guthrie. At the time, Guthrie was performing on the Los Angeles radio station, KFVD, building an audience among displaced Dust Bowl migrants and working-class Californians. He was not yet nationally known. Geer immediately took an interest in Guthrie. The two men shared similar convictions. Both saw art as a form of public resistance. Geer helped introduce Guthrie to members of the cultural left, including editors connected to publications like The People's World and The Daily Worker. He brought Woody Guthrie to political benefits and labor events, where music functioned as both entertainment and an organizing tool. In 1940, Geer organized a benefit for migrant farm workers, inspired by John Steinbeck's The Grapes of Wrath. At that event, Guthrie met a young banjo player named Pete Seeger. The introduction proved important. Within months, Guthrie and Seeger were performing together in what became the Almanac Singers, a group known for Union songs and topical ballads during the early years of the Second World War.
Now, if you want higher wages, let me tell you what to do. You got to talk to the workers in the shop with you. You got to build you a union, got to make it strong. But if you all stick together, boys, it won't be long. You get shorter hours, better working conditions, vacations with pay, take a kid to the seashore. It ain't quite this simple, so I better explain just why you got to ride on the union train. 'Cause if you wait for the boss to raise your pay, we'll all be a-waiting till Judgment Day. We'll all be buried.
As the 1940s progressed, Geer and Guthrie continued to move within the same networks of politically engaged artists. In 1944, they had a chance to record together when folklorist Alan Lomax produced a ballad opera for the BBC titled The Martins and the Coys. It was a radio musical drama that used traditional and topical songs to tell a fictional story of two feuding Appalachian families who put aside their differences to unite against fascism.
What are you trying to get at, Ben?
Well, I propose that we call it off, for the time being anyway.
Suits you, it suits me.
But I don't think we better say nothing to the folks back home about it, you know.
You mean about us kind of being friends?
Yeah, they wouldn't understand. Uncle Boone might have a stroke.
Yeah, Ma, too. Okay, we just won't let on then, but we Martins and the Coys will just not do any more feuding till we show these Nazis.
That's the stuff shake, pal.
The BBC recording featured a remarkable cast of American folk music figures, including Burl Ives, Pete Seeger, Sonny Terry, and Woody Guthrie, among others, with Will Geer acting and singing in ensemble scenes. It was Guthrie's only documented acting role in a broadcast drama. We'll hear 5 songs from the Martins and the Coys now. We'll start with the Martins and Coys theme by Pete Seeger, followed by You Better Get Ready, 900 Miles, and All You Fascists Bound to Lose, all featuring Woody Guthrie. And finally, we'll hear Round and Round Hitler's Grave, featuring Woody Guthrie, Pete Seeger, and Burl Ives.
Gather round me, children, and I'll tell a story of the mountains in the days when guns were law. When 2 families got disputing, it was bound to end in shooting. So just listen close, I'll tell you what I saw. Oh, the Martins and the Coys, they're the reckless mountain boys. They'd pick up family feuding when they meet. They would shoot each other quicker than they took your eye to flicker. They could knock a squirrel out at 90 feet.
Well, I had a dream the other night.
Sing on, brother, sing.
Is about a war we've got to fight.
Sing on, brother, sing.
And I dreamt the devil come to me, and he woke me up from out of my sleep, and here's what he said to me.
Sing on, brother, sing. Woo! You better get ready, brother. You better get ready, sister. You better get ready, 'cause you know you've got to fight.
That train I ride on is 100 coaches long. You can hear the whistle blow 100 miles. If this train runs right, I'll be far away tonight. I'll be 900 miles from my home, and I hate to hear that lonesome whistle blow. Well, I'm going to tell you, fascists, you may be surprised. People in this world are getting organized. You're bound to lose. You fascists bound to lose.
Woo! All you fascists bound to lose.
I said,
all you fascists bound to lose.
Yes, sir.
All you fascists bound to lose. You're bound to lose. You fascists bound to lose.
And now, ladies and gentlemen, we'll dance an old-time square dance with brand new calls. It's Round and Round Hitler's Grave, and lead off, Pete.
Now I wished I had a bushel, wished I had a peck. I wished I had old Hitler with a rope around his neck.
Hey, round and round Hitler's grave, round and round we go. Gonna lay that poor boy down, he won't get up no more.
I'm going to Berlin to Mr. Hitler's town. I'm going to take my 44 and blow his playhouse down.
Hey, round and round Hitler's grave, round and round we go.
I'm Kyle Long, and you're listening to Cultural Manifesto. We just heard 5 recordings from the Martins and the Coys, a 1944 ballad opera featuring Woody Guthrie in Frankfort, Indiana's Will Geer. On this week's show, we're celebrating the life and work of Will Geer by exploring his work with Woody Guthrie. By the late 1950s, Woody Guthrie was gravely ill with Huntington's disease, and he could no longer perform publicly. In 1956, Folkways Records released Bound for Glory, an album built around vintage Woody Guthrie recordings interwoven with newly recorded narration from Guthrie's autobiography by Will Geer. It was a powerful collaboration across time, pairing Guthrie's early songs with Geer's spoken interpretation of his life story. At a moment when Guthrie could not tour or promote his work, Geer helped carry his music forward, preserving the political and artistic legacy of his friend. We'll hear 3 songs from that record now: Stagger Lee, Vigilante Man, and Pastures of Plenty.
When you play music by ear, it don't mean you wiggle your ears while you're playing it. You just use your ears to remember what you hear. You sort of write down a bunch of sounds somewhere in your head and save them for future use. Sometimes you hear a tune and catch some of the words, and for a long time you go around with it roaring through your head like a lost steamboat. My mother was an ear musician. She lived 7 miles out of the little county seat, Okemah, Oklahoma. Songs meant a lot to her, and she collected hundreds of them in her head. And she chorded on the piano and sung tales and stories that taught me the history of our section of the country, its weather, cyclones, pretty women, love affairs, disasters, and its outlaws.
It was in a hustlin' bee joint where the Mississippi run. Stacker Lee killed Billy DeLines with a smoking 41. He was a bad man, that mean old Stacker Lee. The high sheriff asked the deputy, how can it be you can arrest everybody but the mean old Stacker Lee? He's a bad man, that mean old Stacker Lee.
I got a few little jobs, helping a water well driller, hoeing figs, irrigating strawberries in the sandy land, laying roofs, and hustling sign jobs with a painter. I followed the oil towns and found myself as far west as Hobbs, New Mexico. I'd learned how to play a guitar, a few of the easy chords, and was making saloons like a preacher changing from street corner to street corner. I hit Pampa in the panhandle of Texas and stuck there a while. Then the dust storms began blowing blacker and meaner, and the rain was getting less, and the dust more and more. I made up a little song that went, 37 was a dusty year, and I says, woman, I'm leaving here. And on one dark and dusty day, I pulled out down the road that led to California, citizens groups, deputy thugs, mean harness bulls, and vigilantes.
Have you seen that vigilante man? Have you seen that vigilante man? Have you seen that vigilante man? I've been hearing his name all over the land. Well, what is a vigilante man?
Yes, guess I'm what you'd call a migrant worker. Guess you had to think up some kind of a name for me. I travel, yes, if that's what you mean, in your red tape and your scary offices, but you can just call me any old word you want to. You just set and call me off a whole book full of names, but let me be out on my job while you're doing the calling. That way we can save time and money and get more work turned out. I ain't nothing much but a guy walking along. You can't hardly pick me out in a big crowd. I look so much like everybody else. Streets, parks, big places. I travel. Hell, yes, I travel. Ain't you glad I travel and work? If I was to stop, you'd have to up and leave your job and start traveling because there's a hell of a lot of traveling that's got to be done.
Green pastures of plenty from dry desert ground, from that Grand Coulee Dam where the water runs down. Ever stayed in this union, us migrants have been. We'll work in this fight, and we'll fight till we win. Well, it's always we ramble that river and I, all along your green valley I'll work till I die. My land I'll defend with my life if it be, 'cause my pastures of plenty must always be free.
Cultural Manifesto will return after this short break.
WFYI Podcasts brought to you by Sun King Brewery, serving beers like Sunlight and Osiris, as well as new release Premium Light Lager, now available wherever Sun King is sold. More at sunkingbrewing.com.
I'm Kyle Long, and you're listening to Cultural Manifesto. On this week's show, we're exploring the life and work of the Frankfort, Indiana actor, activist, and musician Will Geer. He appeared in over 50 films, including In Cold Blood and Jeremiah Johnson. But he's best remembered for his role as Grandpa on the 1970s TV series The Waltons. But we're focusing on Geer's work with the legendary folk singer Woody Guthrie. Before the break, we heard 3 songs from the 1956 album Bound for Glory, featuring vintage Woody Guthrie recordings combined with newly recorded narration by Will Geer. We'll listen to 4 more songs from that record now. Grand Coulee Dam, This Land Is Your Land, Jesus Christ, and Better World A-Comin'.
The Pacific Northwest is one of my favorite spots in this world, and I'm one walker that stood way up and looked way down across to plenty of pretty sights and all their veiled and nakedest seasons, thumbing it, hitching it, walking and talking it, chalking it, marking it, sighting it and hearing it, seeing it and feeling and breathing, smelling it in, sucking it down me, rubbing it into all the pores of my skin, and the winds between my eyes knocking honey in my comb. The Pacific Northwest has got mineral mountains, it's got chemical deserts, it's got rough-run canyons, it's got saw-blade snowcaps, it's got ridges of 9 kinds of brown hills, out of 6 colors of green, ridges 5 shades of shadows, and stickers the 8 tones of hell. I pulled my shoes on, walked out of every one of these Pacific Northwest mountain towns, drawing pictures in my mind and listening to poems and songs and words faster to come and dance in my ears than I could ever get them wrote down. I wish you might be able to hear 1 or 2 of my songs here and get just a taste, a sip, a little snifter, or a whole big flood of all these kinds of new, wide, open, free, airy, sky-clear feelings like I had walking, talking, seeing all of your people up here through Oregon, through Washington, then on over down through Utah and Idaho.
Well, the world has 7 wonders that the travelers always tell. Some gardens and some towers, I guess you know them well. But now the greatest wonder is in Uncle Sam's fair land. It's that keen Columbia River and the big Grand Coulee Dam. She heads up the Canadian Rockies where the rippling waters glide, comes a-rumbling down the canyon to meet that salted tide.
I hate a song that makes you think that you're not any good. I hate a song that makes you think that you're just born to lose, bound to lose, no good to nobody, no good for nothing, because you're either too old or too young or too fat or too slim or too ugly or too this or too that. Songs that run you down, or songs that poke fun at you on account of your bad luck or your hard traveling. I'm out to fight those kinds of songs to my very last breath of air and my last drop of blood. I am out to sing songs that will prove to you that this is your world, that if it has hit you pretty hard and knocked you down for a dozen loops, no matter how hard it's run you down and rolled over you, no matter what color, what size you are, how you're built, I am out to sing the songs that make you take pride in yourself and in your work. And the songs I sing are made up for the most part by all sorts of folks just about like you.
This land is your land, and this land is my land, from the California to the New York Island, from the Redwood Forest to the Gulf Stream waters. This land was made for you and me. As I went a-walking that ribbon of highway, I saw above me that endless skyway.
I won't say that my guitar playing or singing is anything fancy on a stick. I know that my voice is not one of the smooth riding kind because I don't want it to sound smooth. None of the folks that I know have got smooth voices like dew dripping off the petals of the morning violet, and still they can and do sing louder, longer, and with more guts than any smooth voice that I ever heard. I'd rather sound like the ash cans of the early morning, like the cab drivers cursing at one another, like the longshoremen yelling, like the cowhands whooping, and like the lone wolf barking.
Jesus was a man, a carpenter by hand, carpenter true and brave, and a dirty little coward called Judas Iscariot. He laid Jesus Christ in his grave. People of the land took Jesus by the hand, followed him far and wide. Come not to bring you peace, but a sword, so they killed Jesus Christ on the slide.
I tell you about everything in the world and on the world and above the world and about the world, as well as around the world and through the world and in the world and near the world. I tell you about the winds and the weathers and the oceans and the lands and the continents that have risen and sunk since this little hunk of dirt first whirled off the burning sun. I tell you the men and the women that bathed their eyes in the zigzag lightning and hugged and kissed in the rumbling thunder, and about every Union wheel that ever did run down a Union road or down a Union rail, and every puff of Union smoke that ever did rise up out of a big, high Union smokestack.
There's a better world that's a-comin', don't you see, see? There's a better world that's a-comin', don't you see? When we'll all be Union and we'll all be free, there's a better world that's a-comin', don't you see? There's a better world a-comin', and don't you know, no. There's a better world that's a-comin', don't you know? I'm a Union man in a Union war. It's a Union world I'm fighting for.
I'm Kyle Long, and you're listening to Cultural Manifesto. We just heard Woody Guthrie with Better World A-Comin' from the album Bound for Glory, narrated by Frankfort, Indiana's Will Geer. On this week's show, we're celebrating the life and work of Will Geer by exploring his work with Woody Guthrie. After Woody Guthrie died in 1967, Will Geer honored his friend's life and music in public tributes. He served as a narrator for Woody Guthrie tributes at Carnegie Hall and Hollywood Bowl, joining fellow artists to celebrate Guthrie's songs and legacy, ensuring his voice lived on for a new generation.
All right. Let's say Woody made up 1,000 songs. Songs with love in them, songs with loneliness and sorrow in them, songs with a fierce and stubborn will to survive. Some of them, chances are, you never heard. And some of them were hummed and whistled and passed along till they became part of the weave of the life of this land. And people would swear that they were old folk songs drifted up through the hickory smoke of history.
And Will Geer died on April 22nd, 1978, at the age of 76. He left behind a career that stretched from Indiana farmland to Broadway, to union halls and national television. Throughout his life, he remained committed to social change, never abandoning the belief that art and activism were intertwined, a conviction that first drew him to the music of Woody Guthrie. We'll end with music from the 1973 album, Woody's Story, as told by Will Geer and sung by Dick Wingfield.
Have you heard of a ship called the Good Reuben James? Manned by hard-fighting men, both of honor and fame. She flew the stars and stripes of this land of the free, but tonight she's in her grave on the bottom of the sea. Tell me, what were their names? Tell me, what were their names?
That's all the time we have for this week. Thanks for tuning in for our tribute to Frankfort, Indiana's Will Geer. If you appreciate the arts and culture programming you hear on this station, please consider making a donation now at wfyi.org/give. And check out the Cultural Manifesto podcast at wfyi.org or wherever you listen to podcasts. Cultural Manifesto is hosted and produced by me, Kyle Long. Our podcast is edited by Holly Summers, and our radio director at WFYI is Roxana Caldwell. Thank you for listening.
WFYI podcasts are brought to you by Gregory and Appel Insurance, dedicated to helping people and businesses navigate the complexities of risk management, employee benefits, and private client insurance. More at GregoryAppel.com.